Hello, JR Frontera here. Today I'm going to read you chapter 1 of my science fiction thriller short story coming out February 16th. I decided to go ahead and read it instead of just make it available to read yourself, because I thought that if you were interested but really busy and didn't have time to read, I guess it's only 3 pages, but you know, it's nice to just hit play and then you can listen and go do something else and still kind of check it out. Anyway, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start right in and hope you like it. Okay. Chapter 1, The Dreams. Rostam Hobbs never told anyone about the dreams, not when he'd been on track to make chief engineer of Astrotech's New Horizons station before 35, not when exhaustion had caused miscalculations that nearly froze the entire West Residence wing into a block of ice, not when the president of Astrotech herself had demanded an explanation for his negligence and his direct supervisor, a man he nearly considered a friend, had looked at him with that crushing disappointment. Not even when they had given him the choice that wasn't a choice, resign or take an assignment on this junk bucket scout ship to get lost in some godforsaken corner of space. They knew full well he couldn't afford to resign. Ross swiped his hand across the lift's authorization panel and then scrubbed it over his face as the door obediently opened. He tried to shake off the fatigue as he stepped inside the narrow tube, straightened the shirt of his Astrotech uniform, and checked the shininess of his boots. Then he pushed the button for engineering deck. "Authorization, please," the computer prompted. Ross sighed, closed his eyes. Rostam Jonathan Hobbs, Electrotechnical Manager. Authorization, Charlie Foxtrot Tango X-Ray. Authorization accepted. The lift slid downwards, and Ross leaned back against the wall. The same routine every day. He dreamt about it. It and every other mundane, repetitive task of the Electrotechnical Manager. He dreamt about the end of this journey, too, about the planet they hurtled toward. Dreamt they found it a desert wasteland, a dead end, all this way for nothing. He shook his head and pressed his palms into his eyes. No, that won't happen. It can't happen. We saw it on the scans. It's there. It has water, vegetation, and there's no cosmic events on the horizon. It will be there and it will be fine. There will be land again and real gravity, and you can take a few days off. Just get there, Hobbs. Just get there. Sometimes he took benzoids at bedtime and prayed the drugs would chase the dreams away. Sometimes he didn't sleep at all, but kept up shots of vitamin B and caffeine and stayed up all night watching old vids and solving math proofs. But it didn't really matter anymore anyway. His shot at chief engineer was ruined. They'd never give it to him now, no matter how hard he busted ass. Goddamn dreams. He wasn't supposed to dream. Dreamers were supposed to have been identified and utilized by the time they hit puberty, and he was well past that. Maybe they wouldn't take him now, given his age, but he didn't dare chance it. Most people were blissfully unaware that dreamers even existed, but he worked in engineering. He knew everything about dreamers. He straightened as the lift door opened and spat him out into the engineering airlock. He passed his palm across the remaining 2 door panels blocking his entrance and stepped onto the engineering deck proper, then nodded to Gina Holloway, first engineer and his only subordinate aboard this ship. Hey, Ross. Hey, Gina. She raked long fingers through shoulder-length red hair, hardly sparing him a glance as she scrolled through engine output readouts. Rough night? He didn't bother to ask why she'd asked such a question. He already knew why. He looked like shit. Felt like shit, too. Not sleeping properly for weeks would do that to a person. Not particularly. You? She shrugged and leaned back in her chair, spinning her stylus in hypnotic circles on her desk. Not really. Uneventful, boring, like the rest of this trip. Tell me about it. He took the seat next to her at the main controls, powering up his own workstation. If only his nights could be so boring and uneventful. If only he could get some damn sleep. He logged into the engine report system and browsed over the output numbers from the night before. What did dreamers dream, he wondered. How did they stay asleep so peacefully? Was it simply that ignorance was bliss? That they had no idea of the magnitude of their service or of the time it involved? Maybe it was simply the cocktail of drugs fed steadily into the pod's life support systems that kept them from waking. Maybe no one would notice if he slipped a vial out to his quarters, a little something to let him sleep. Sleep without dreams, maybe. Something to keep him from jerking awake every hour with the fear of someone knowing about the pictures he played in his own head. He scrolled through the colored lines of code, mostly green. Green was good. Green was A-OK. Green meant he might be seeing Earth again someday. A few yellows here and there, dips in machine performance he'd have to check out to prevent any unpleasant surprises later, and one red. He stopped at the red. He didn't much like red. He'd missed a red once, and it cost him his ideal career. He scowled at it and jabbed a finger against the screen. What is this? Gina came to lean over his shoulder. She smelled of lavender and vanilla, as always. Such a relaxing smell. It made him want to fall asleep. He wished she wouldn't stand so close. Oh yeah, that, she said. Not critical. Not worth waking you up in the middle of the night. I was awake anyway. But she didn't need to know that. He squinted at the readout. This is saying engine output spiked at 1:49 this morning. Yeah? Has that ever happened before? Not on this ship. At least, not that high. And you didn't think it was worth calling me down here for that. She shrugged again and moved back to her own desk. The cat likes the story. Flopping down in the chair with a grunt. Nah, it wasn't nothing the engines couldn't handle. Never came near critical. You needed your beauty sleep. It says engine output went up almost 200%. She nodded again. If this was something the Magellan's engines could handle so easily, they hadn't told him about it. But the possibility opened up whole new options for this little venture of theirs. If the engines can handle this kind of output, why aren't we running at 200% all the time? He asked. Gina sat sideways in her chair to face him. Because this ain't a space station. We break down, there's no one to hear us scream. The engines were built to handle a wide range of output, but run them at 200%, 100% of the time, and they'll burn out quick. Come on, surely they told you that in orientation. They said max safety parameter is 150%. Well, yeah. If they tell you 200, you'll push it to 200 all the time. They tell you 150, you'll keep output at true optimum levels and won't risk frying the propulsion. He blinked at her. Then how can you be so sure 200 isn't critical? Hang on, I gotta get rid of the cat. She smiled at him, one of those pitying little smiles the crew had been giving him since he came on board. As far as they were concerned, a space station, even one as far out from Earth as New Horizon, was equivalent to working planetside. He was the misfit here, the one who didn't belong. I've been running on these Astrotech scout ships my whole life, she said. Was born on one, if you can believe it. Sad but true. I know him better than I know my own mother. He snorted incredulously. Then why haven't you made manager yet? Her smile widened, and her eyes sparked with a conspiratorial light he didn't much like. Because I don't want to make manager. Why would I? I love where I'm at. My position is necessary and stable and hard to fuck up. Ambition is risky, Mr. Hobbs. She stood from her chair and stretched, then patted him on the shoulder as she moved for the airlock door. But you already know that. Anyway, I'll see you tonight. Have a good shift. Yeah, he muttered, swinging back around to face his computer as she exited to hide the glare. Have a good sleep. The end of chapter 1. Anyway, so that is the first chapter of that story. Like I said, it is being published February 16th. It'll be on Amazon. And then a little bit after that, it'll be available pretty much everywhere else. So anyway, it's coming soon. I hope you enjoy. Hope you'll check it out when it's released. And anyway, that's about it for me. Thanks for watching / listening.